Welcome back to The Good Hustle. We are here today with a filmmaker, Luke Covert. And the best part is he's local.
Wow, yeah.
Like really local.
Yeah. Fairly local. Yeah.
Like lives 3 doors down from my sister, had no idea, which is hilarious. So, Zach, why don't you do some introductions here?
Yeah, so of course we're joined today with our first guest on the Good Hustle podcast, Luke Covert. So obviously we have to ask you, how you doing, Luke? How you feeling today? How are things?
Feeling great today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm feeling great today. There's a little bit of snow happening this week, and it's all melted, but
Yeah.
my heart's breaking for that a little bit.
I know. Yeah, I was trying to get my basement not to flood last night and fix my sump pump. So that was a lot of fun last night. It was a journey, but we're getting through it. We're getting through the flooding and all that stuff. But yeah, so I guess we'll kick it off this way. Okay, so the essence of this podcast, me and John were talking about it a lot recently of like, what do we want this podcast, the Good Hustle podcast, to turn into? Like why are we doing this? What is the angle we're going for? Obviously Good Hustle kind of happened organically last time.
Yes, it did.
Off of his hoodie and my hoodie just ending up being good in Hustle. So that was a lot of fun. But we thought about it a lot, like what is the point of this? And we were talking about how, our Good Hustle is real estate. Yeah, like we both hustle in real estate. We like content creation too. And so that's kind of our Good Hustle. But what is the rest of this podcast going to be about? And I want to kind of intro with that and ask Luke, like, what do you do? What is your self-described good hustle that you do? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a self-proclaimed, I guess, filmmaker, right? So I'm a film director.
Yeah.
And what that kind of means is trying to scrape together money to make like cool movies and passion projects and things. And then in the meantime, shooting a ton of commercials, just helping people sell stuff all over the region. So yeah, hustling in central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, it's how do you tell a story, right, in an interesting way that like resonates with people that they want to watch. And even if it's an ad, it's like, what's the spin that makes it, something that someone's going to want to watch the whole thing through.
Yeah.
And come out the other side and be like, wow, you didn't waste my time there.
Yeah. Well, and the one big thing that I know a lot of people don't know about, but a lot of people do know about, is you did a film called Turbo Cola.
Yeah.
Which I finished this morning, which I'll admit, only because I've been super busy. But it was amazing. Like, it was a super good film. And like, where did you get inspiration and how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah. So I spent a lot of my childhood and then early 20s making short films, right? Because that's kind of like the easy on-ramp. Right. The whole 90-minute movie is just like this monster that you shouldn't really tackle right out the gate.
Exactly.
Mess it up. And that movie came about just because of a series of hustles, like making short films and all these things. And a guy that I'd used as a stuntman in one of the short films I was making in my attic, he sends me an email like months later after it had come out. And he's like, hey, I got this script. It's like, It's a play script. It's really good.
Right. It's based
what
on
do you
play.
think about this? So he sent that to me and I read it. He's like, I want to make a short film out of it. And I read it and I was like, man, I really like these characters. I really like this story. But I can't find like a solid 6 minutes of this thing just because of the way it was. It's kind of rambling, like teenage, kind of coming of age, 1999, stuck in a small town thing. There was no big like punchline to pull from. And so I literally just sent him back kind of, in retrospect, what's kind of like a cheeky email that was like, this is really cool, but it's definitely not a short film. This is a feature film, and it's an indie feature film.
Yes, 100%.
Because you've got like 6 main characters, really.
Right.
In a gas station on one night, New Year's Eve, 1999. It's like a capsule piece. And I was like, so really, you kind of need one main location.
Yep.
You kind of need a couple weeks to shoot it. And like, that's an indie film right there. That's like Reservoir Dogs. That was like the reason Tarantino did that, is because it was like basically all in a warehouse.
It was.
There's a couple other places,
possibly
too.
A restaurant with somebody not tipping.
Exactly. There's multiple things in there. And,
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, exactly. Who has a point? But
yes,
I can't enact it. Though.
It's just $1. It's just $1.
I know.
Yeah.
But so that was kind of the genesis of the whole thing, and that cascaded this domino effect of him crazily saying like, yeah, I can get the funds for it.
Yeah,
like what's the next
wild.
step?
I have one thing I have to touch on that. So that's a really good on ramp for my backstory on how I know you, and so I wanted to touch a little bit on that. So it's a little bit funny. So our wives know each other, and that's kind of how we know each other. So so Allie, your wife, is good friends with Alyssa, my wife, and Alyssa and Avery, Allie's sister, grew up together, and we went to church camp together and all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
You
go way back.
Yeah, so I've seen Luke like vaguely in random places over the years, like whenever our wives were doing stuff together and those kind of things. But I remember recently there was one night where Alyssa's like, "Hey, we're gonna go support Allie's husband Luke for this movie he's doing. It's gonna be a really fun time. Like don't worry about it." And
Like,
so
oh,
I'm
God.
thinking, so
Like, oh,
so
she had to sell it.
How
yeah,
long is it?
I know. Yeah. So I'm just being totally honest
Yeah.
with you. I looked at her, I was like, we're really going out to do this. Like, okay, like how long is this gonna be? Like, what are we doing? Like, is this? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, is this gonna be like an anime? Is it gonna be like claymation? Like, what are we really
It's
getting?
a Lego film.
Yeah, is it?
Lego brick film,
Right, it's a 6-minute Lego
It is,
montage.
yeah, right. My mom's
that he
there,
made on
she's
YouTube.
clapping really loud.
Right, like, oh, good job, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so, so that's kind of what I went into with expectations. Just being totally honest with you, I had no idea what I was getting into. And then that night, we go to premiere. And I look at the street and I'm like, wow, there's like a lot of people here. Like, what in the world is going? Is this all for Luke's movie? And Alyssa's like, I think so. And we go into this theater, and I forget where it was. Is it Allen?
Yeah,
Allentown?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like kind of Hershey. It's like
Yeah.
called the Allen Theater.
Allen Theater. That's what it is.
Allen Theater. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that
Theater.
place.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah,
Beautiful theater.
and so we go to this theater, and there's a lot of people there. They have these Turbo Cola T-shirts, like the one that I have on right here. And I just found that whole premiere night to be really, really cool. And then we sit down, and I look to the lady next to me. I'm like, so how long is this? Like, is this like how long is this gonna be? She's like, this is like a legit movie, dude. Like we're all here to see like a real movie.
You're here for an hour and a half.
And then I
Settle in.
and yeah, so we
I
watch
have to
it.
pee already.
I know, we watch it, and the movie is just awesome. Like, I was floored by the quality of it. I remember telling you about specific parts of it that I thought were really cool. And we can talk about those as we go through this, and just stuff that I picked out that was like, that is very much like another director that I really like, and I told you that afterwards. And some other shows that I like. And another thing that I thought was amazing was all the actors were there, and so afterwards they all came up on stage. I was like, I just watched these guys for the last hour and a half doing an amazing movie, and they're like right in front of me, and it was such a
And they're all so cool. They like look like actors. They
Right.
talk like actors.
Yeah.
Because they are actors. You know what I mean? They're just not famous yet.
Right.
And some of them are on their way.
Yeah, so I guess the big question I want to ask you is like, what did that premiere night feel like for you? Because that had to be insane.
It was incredible. I remember when we were because you have to do a bunch of like quality control tests on a premiere like that. Like you don't just want to show up with a DVD or something and be like, I hope this works, right? And so for me, it was like a couple weeks of leading up to that. But the thing that was interesting is the owner of the theater. That theater's awesome.
Yeah.
It's lovingly kept. It feels like a classic thing. It's like a
was so
privately
cool.
owned thing. And the owner sat with us to watch the first test run, and he watched the whole movie with us. And I was like, dude, you don't have to do this. Like, we'll do this. You know, we'll just let you know if there's anything wrong. He watched the whole thing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm sure you're good at your job. I wanted to fix a couple things in like the sound. So we went back, and we ended up going back like 2 more times with 2 different versions of the movie. And every time that guy sat there and watched
the whole thing.
The whole thing. And I was like, I don't know if you're just like this, or like, but to me, that was like, that's crazy. Like, you know, there's something about this that you like. And then at the premiere, the energy was awesome. Everyone was so positive.
So cool, man.
And I've had that kind of experience before, but I've never had the experience where people come up to me afterwards and they want to talk about a thing or a moment that they liked or loved, or a character or something. And in the same way they would talk about just any movie. It wasn't like, well, that's so cool. How did you end up pulling that off? You know, it was like, I've had a lot of that type of thing where it's like, wow, how did you do that shot? You know, almost like
low
almost like giving
expectations,
you
or like
but this was like, wow, that moment meant something to me, or like, I didn't know that was going to happen, or what, you know, what was the character thinking? And it was the way that I talk to other people about movies.
Yeah.
And like you did that at the end.
Right.
You're like, were you inspired by this and this and this? And it was like, we were talking about real movies.
Yeah,
Which was amazing.
And to me, like the inspirations, I kept thinking about different movies that I loved and different characters from different films. Like you said, you know, Reservoir Dogs, or even Clerks.
Yep.
Like that was another movie that I thought
I saw a lot of reviews kept referencing, oh, this is so much like Clerks in different ways.
It is, but I thought the characters were just phenomenal. And I kept thinking in my head, like, where did he find these characters? And I kind of wanted to touch base with that because, you know, just casting for that film was so well done. How did you do it?
Yeah. That, so the domino effect was like, you know, hey, let's see if we can find a location right? And literally 2 hours later, the producer, Brandon Keaton, called me and was like, hey, can you drive down the road? I think I got a location, like on lock. And I was like, that's crazy. Because I'd basically challenged him, like, hey, this is the set of things we're going to need to get. And once he got the location, I was like, that's awesome. But there's a lot of talking in this movie. And if the actors aren't good, like, there's going to be no movie.
That is so
Correct.
true.
And
So true.
we set off, we posted online on this website called Backstage that I've cast for a lot of things on. We threw it out there. We're not paying well. We paid everybody, but we're not paying well for those things.
Right.
You have to imagine also this is the middle of the pandemic, like the
Right.
beginning
So no one's
stages,
getting
kind
Leo
of-
DiCaprio money.
No one's getting real money. Yep. And suddenly, and we put out this, we had a pitch deck, we had like character synopsis, and all these things. And suddenly we had like 1,300 submissions
Wow.
of actors from all over the world.
That is insane.
Yeah, all over the country rather. And so we just sat there in his martial arts studio that he owned at the time, because he was transitioning from that to like producing and acting. And he's since been in like, the producer has since been in like, Guardians of the Galaxy and all these different movies and stuff. But we sat there and literally just like paged through auditions and headshots and things like that, and narrowed it way down until like our top 5 people for each role.
Yeah.
And then in the audition process, you send sides, which is just like a page of the script that you want to hear them read, and then they self-tape it just like this or on a phone or something and send that in. And usually that's the thing. I really like auditions because you can usually tell in the first like 5-10 seconds
Oh yeah, for
if
sure.
someone's got it.
Yeah.
And even it's not even while they're nailing the performance, it's more like, oh, they're acting,
Right.
like they're really putting something into this, like I believe it. And so then after you can see that first one, you send a second page. And my theory on this, and I'm sure professional casting directors do this all the time, is it's a different tone for the same character. So the first pages we sent were some of the like comedic moments, got everyone to read that, and it was like, awesome, these people can nail that. Now here's a dramatic moment from the movie, and you can see if that person can hold the same character in these 2 different moments, because you have to, throughout the movie, it like starts off all fun, and then, not to give too much away, but things get kind of real,
They get
course.
very real.
Yes.
the end, and it has to feel like the same character going through that arc, And as New Year's Eve hits in the movie, some stuff happens.
Oh yeah.
So we were sending pages from the end of the movie where people are like, kind of breaking a little bit.
And I thought that was really cool because from the beginning, it was like, these characters had, just the way, the type of person they were. And then as it progressed, like to see some of the characters go from like, he's just a normal guy that's never going to get out of the town.
Yep.
And then understanding that one of the characters is going to enlist. Like to me, it almost brought tears to my eyes because I'm looking at these characters in this small town and I'm thinking, well, you got the drug dealer who's never going to leave,
Right.
and I'm in recovery. So I'm 15 years sober. So that was part me. You got Austin, the kid that works at the gas station.
Main character.
Main character who was a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
He was so good.
So good.
Yeah,
and
he's going places.
yeah, he is. And he's got a tough childhood and he's working his butt off and he's doing things that I did in my past to try to move forward.
Yeah.
And to see how they all grew in a matter of like an 8-hour movie, they all grow up like that quick.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, the just the brief synopsis, just for everyone listening, is there's a kid who wants to leave his hometown and follow his girlfriend to New York City, but he has no money.
Right.
He lives in tiny Michigan. It's snowy. He works at a gas station, and he realizes that on the night of Y2K, he can steal like 80 grand from the ATM with his stoner best friend.
Yeah, right.
If they play their cards right. But the thing is, and the audience realizes it's a terrible idea. Like it's not going to work. It's kind of silly. It's like that they were high when they came up with it and
Right.
stuff. And so then you kind of go on this journey where you watch them try and pull it off all night.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't go quite like they thought, and things get real and they have to change. And so it's kind of a fun, the original play didn't have that element of them trying to steal the money. It was just these kids talking and like this kind of emotional storyline.
Yeah.
And so for me and my co-writer, Matt, who helped me rewrite the play, it was like, let's put something in here that's like a commercial like plot line
Yeah.
that like I think is super fun,
Yeah.
where we can keep most of the dialogue the same, we can keep the character beats the same, but there's something going on under the surface all night that's kind of driving it. So we know when Austin's saying like, hey, I wish we could hang out, it's kind of a lie because he's trying to get people to leave so he can get back to what he's trying
Correct.
to do.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah, I
that was
think
my goal.
One thing that I absolutely love about the movie is you go into the movie in the first 10 minutes or so, and I was even thinking this in the theater. I'm like, okay, so this is going to be a fun teeny bopper adventure, right, about stealing money and stuff. And you quickly realize as the story progresses that that's actually not the plot of the movie. The plot is not about the stealing, about what these characters are actually going to get away with in the night. It's about all of their underlying things that they have going on in their life and where they're going to go. And like I thought that was so well written, man. Like I really, really enjoyed that part of it. Also want to give props to Austin again. I mean, the main character was phenomenal. And one thing I thought was really interesting, I don't know if you thought about this. I'm sure you did. You probably thought about every part of this a million times. But one thing I thought about Austin was he kind of comes off as a morally good character through the whole movie. There's a lot of things that he does where he tells people to knock it off and stop doing XYZ thing. In the middle of trying to steal 80 grand from the gas station. Right. And you kick off the movie. This isn't too much of a spoiler. No, you kick off the movie with him smoking pot with his best friend talking about stealing money. Yep. And so it's so funny to see him have to act as the morally good arbiter through the whole film for all the other characters while still being a guy stealing money and smoking pot. It's such an interesting thing.
To his mom too.
Yeah, right. He's trying to save everybody.
He's trying to save everybody, and he's like being the moral compass for everybody. But like you said, like in the meantime, he's trying to steal $80,000.
Right.
It's a blind spot of his.
100%. And listen, we all have them.
We all have them. Yeah.
Of course, I still have plenty of them. But
it's just so funny because people like that too. You know people who have their blind spots of like, I'm trying to help
like
everybody.
that a little bit too.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I was like that as a kid. Like I'm telling you, man, I did a lot of dumb stuff, but morally, I ultimately always felt like, God always had a good spot for me, but mentally I couldn't get out of my own way. I didn't know how to grow up. I mean, I wasn't taught very well. I didn't have the moral compass, taught to me, but deep down I felt like I literally had it. But one of the things I wanted to kind of backtrack on was in the very beginning of the movie, like you said, there was a lot of foreshadowing of things that could happen.
Yeah.
And like,
huge fan of that.
Yeah, and none of them happened. Yeah. Like none of them, which I thought was really cool. And when my fiance and I were watching the movie, in the beginning they got the mop bucket and it's going through a pile of blood. Yeah. Well, then it's going through that red, icy stuff. So the whole time I'm like, is it really blood? I was like, wait, there's the blood. Like, no, that's icy. I was like, there's the blood. Yeah. No, that's still icy. I'm like, maybe there is no blood. Did we miss-see that?
Right.
Yeah. And like how you did that foreshadowing of so many different cool things, like I absolutely love that.
That was one of the things Zach brought up at the premiere. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, you were watching the movie.
100%.
Crazy. Maybe people were watching this thing. And that was a decision later in the edit where the beginning of the movie just wasn't working.
Yeah.
For a while, we were cutting it, and because I edited the movie as well. Yeah. And so it was like, man, what I'd written, maybe with more time and money and chops, I could have pulled it off, and it was fine. Yeah. It just didn't grab you. And so I literally outsourced it to two of my, really good friends, and I was like, what's wrong with this? And they watched the whole thing. My friend Jordan was like, what if you took this chunk of the movie and you lifted it and you put it at the beginning?
Wow.
Interesting.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then you did it.
And then I did it. And I was like, oh, he's right.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing. Like it always takes an outside set of eyes to see things
100%. Yeah.
that you're not seeing, because I'm nowhere near any type of talent like you are, but I've made some little commercials for real estate, stuff like that. And they've turned out really good. Yep. But like for me to have another outside set of eyes, like even Nate here, like he does such a great job with like sitting us down and saying, here's where you should go. Because my brain's saying, let's do this way. And then he's like, no, that's not the way to do it.
Shout out to Nate.
Shout out to Nate. And I need to hear that because ultimately I'll just get in my own way.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing about the opening is we realized a lot of the target audience was like under 30, 35. Yep. And that, Y2K is the setting of the movie. Yeah. And that a lot of those people don't know what that is. They think it's like a design trend or like a fashion aesthetic or something like Y2K is just like a phrase people say. Right. And so we had to build this title sequence that showed kind of the Y2K hysteria a little bit and prep them on like what the world is.
You guys were both like 5. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I was born in 95. Yeah, so for me, Y2K didn't really happen. The funniest thing is that I remember Y2K as Chris Jericho. He's a WWE wrestler, but his nickname was Y2K because he came out in 2000.
Why don't you ask me where I was for Y2K?
Where were you?
Paris.
Yeah,
1999.
Were the planes falling down out of the sky?
The lights go off?
No, but here's the funny thing. There was a clock on La Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower, and it had They did 2,000 days until the New Year. So I was there the summer before, and it was like so many days till New Year's, and I fell in love with this. So my French mom invited us back for New Year's. Well, about 3 hours before New Year's, that clock broke. So the whole point of me going to see this clock hit zero, it broke.
Amazing.
That's
But
wild.
we had to get off. We left our place at like 9, took a metro down to the Eiffel Tower. New Year's Eve hit, and it took us 9 hours to get back because the metro shut down. So we had to walk all the way back to our apartment.
Crazy.
My sister Lola, who I mentioned earlier, broke her ankle. We ended up in a hospital that night. The doctor smoked cigarettes, eating bags of chips. Like that was
New
my
Year's Eve.
Yeah, you guys were like in bed, like with your blankies,
Probably-
5 years
probably in a
old,
crib
6
cell,
years old, and and I remember I had a JanSport, purple JanSport bag filled with beer and champagne, a yellow double whammy Columbia ski jacket, and I remember my outfit. Yeah, I totally remember that. And my sister fell off a
important
curb.
night.
It was. It was a good night. So, but
So,
yeah.
I was just going to touch back on the thing we were talking about where you were incorporating and making sure that, you know, everything had a place. I want to really compliment you on your attention to detail for a lot of that stuff,
you.
man.
Yes.
So I was last night was the third time I've watched the movie.
Wow.
And I was trying to kind of frame by frame pick out things that I noticed that I know you definitely
don't
added.
go too deep down that rabbit hole.
And so one of them was the drinking age is next to Austin as he's at the table, the cash register. And it says like, if you were born before 1986 or something, you can't drink.
Yep.
And I thought that was an interesting attention
did you
to detail.
get that? I saw
Because you'd
that
have to go and
All the
make that,
props
right?
and stuff we made that, you know,
Yeah.
not so the stuff in the gas station, all the food and things, we just had to let be
Right.
modern.
Well, I
we just
noticed you
didn't have
turned
the
Right,
around
I
a
saw
lot
the
of
5
them,
hour energy.
We just
stuff
didn't
like
have
that.
the budget to like
Right.
replace
Sure.
Pepsi logos for old
course.
Pepsi logos. And
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of that.
which makes
So
sense.
We turned stuff away as we could,
Yep.
but it's also such a like there's so much, so busy in there that it's not like you're really tuned in.
Right.
And if you are, like we've already kind of failed and you're not paying attention to the story,
Of course,
you know,
yeah.
and that's gonna happen.
I only noticed like one thing, like the 5 hour energy.
Totally. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And there was two other
There's like
things.
Bluetooth. There's like a USB phone charger. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oh, and the new
shots.
lighters. I saw the new
there's
lighters.
A couple new lighters. And
Yeah.
stuff. But the props like that we made, like we printed a bunch of stuff. We took cigarette prices and like, you know, changed the numbers on them. We moved the Red Bull machine out. You
Right.
know, it's,
I saw the soda was still 99 cents.
Yeah, so it was
the gas prices were like $1 something.
Yep.
I was like, oh, I remember
I
those
changed
days.
that digitally. Yep.
Yep.
And the
Did you do that digitally?
digitally? Yep.
Wow,
That's pretty cool.
A lot of the and all the snow was digital.
Yeah, I know that.
too.
I saw you posted a video on Facebook, I believe, about the CGI snow. I would have never guessed that was CGI.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. I had no idea.
Good.
I'm
That's
just
the
finding
point.
this out now.
That's the point.
That is so cool. Now, was Austin real? No.
Austin was an AI. He was in ChatGPT.
Nice. That's why he was so good.
That's why he was so good. Yeah. And then a lot of the other props, like the cash register.
I love. That's what I was going to say. The
all
cash
that
register.
stuff was like antique stores or eBay.
Yep.
I needed like a subway map for New York City because he's like
Yeah, when
studying up.
when he did the map.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like prepping to go live with his girlfriend there, which isn't gonna happen, but that's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so all that stuff was like eBay, and it was just months of just slowly sourcing props.
How do you know it's not going to happen? Because we didn't see after what was in that bottle cap.
That's true.
Like I don't know.
Only he
that's
can write
true.
it. That's the problem. We can't. We can't stop it.
Like whenever it ended, I was like, ah.
Yeah, right.
Because I was like, come on, $10,000. Come on. And then he's like, "Tss," and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, it's probably just a free hat.
Yeah.
I kind of love when I kind of love when movies leave you with like your interpretation of it because it's so much fun to like
Right.
think about later and be like, I wonder if he really did get out of there. I wonder like it's so fun.
It's that little bit of indignation that makes you think about it a little longer.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
We tried a couple different endings, and that was the one that really.
I
landed for
absolutely
me.
love the ending.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, because if it makes you have an emotion, like a total jerk movement emotion, which I did, you know it's doing something right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that to me was huge. And I just, the cash register, it said no credit, like things like that, like it's cash only. Like, and I remember that year, I was 19, and I didn't even have a smartphone then. So like, you were 6 at the time.
Yep.
When did you literally start filming, and what were you using to? I kind of want to backtrack to kind of like your beginning of your hustle. Like, what did you start with?
Yeah. Well, so when I was we'll call it like 13, I wanted to be David Blaine. I wanted to be like,
Oh, no way.
Chris Angel.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna mind freak
I
everybody.
loved Chris Angel back in the day.
Yeah, I did street magic to strangers who were
Did
like,
you really?
how young are you? Why, do you want do you have a home? Are you okay? Like, why are we doing this right now? Why do you
Do we
wanna
need to
show me
call
a card
someone?
trick? Yeah, exactly. And then I worked like one birthday party for somebody and made some money, and so I thought I was gonna be a magician. And then there was a community online at the time who were filming magic tricks, putting them online. And it was just this thing that was happening. And so I grabbed my parents' like little DV camcorder thing, and I was making these videos on iMovie on this like ancient little Mac thing. And I was putting them online, and I realized pretty quick that like I wished somebody else was doing the tricks, and then I could just be filming them.
Oh, wow.
And nobody else could do the tricks. And I've had, at the time I had a friend who was also kind of starting to get into video stuff, and we started making movies together. And I quickly realized that this was the epiphany for me, is that we could film a shot of you looking this way, like a close-up, saying some stuff, and then like 6 months later in a different state films you looking this way, saying responses, and edit it back and forth, and it looks like you guys are talking. And I was like, that is the ultimate magic trick.
Which I think is really cool.
Is like, and then there's other magic tricks, like how do you make it look like his hand is inside the ATM? Like how do you do all these things?
I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah.
Like how, well,
so
you don't need to share those tricks with me.
No, I mean, and so that to me is like
They're magic.
the thing about movie making is that it is literally just like magic trick after magic trick.
Yeah.
And people don't, and that's the good thing is, when you do a magic trick well, people don't know, they don't realize all of the mechanics that went into it. It's just this outcome of like this emotion of like, oh my God, you're a demon, Whereas in a movie, it's the same thing. It's like, if you do it wrong, people are like, I wonder how they got his hand in the ATM. If you do it right, it's just like, right, he reached in and that's inside.
Yeah, because I never once thought about it.
Yep.
Which is the way it's supposed to be.
Or the snow. It's like, I never once thought that maybe it didn't snow.
Yeah, I bet you if you polled everyone in the theater that night, I bet you like maybe one of them would have been like, oh, that was CGI.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yep. And
That's
so
great.
that was my on ramp, and then I quickly started making YouTube videos. It was a different era. There were no vlogs really.
For sure.
It was more like, let's make sketch comedy, like 2-minute funny videos.
Yep.
And so we just did that for a long time, and then somebody eventually offered. They were like, hey, I'll give you like $500. Can you make a video for my clothing brand? And so I was like, are you serious? Shout out to Steve-O, and so we ran around in the woods with some indie kids and like filmed stuff and cut it to like a stomp clap indie song, and it was awesome. And then from then on, I was like, man, I can make money if I'm helping people also make money.
Right.
If I can get on the right side of the equation and truly help a business, pitch them something.
Right.
And so from there on, like I've been doing commercials and movies and stuff ever since.
So how long? So you're 29, married, kids?
Yeah.
How many?
Almost 4.
Almost 4.
Shut up.
Yep.
Wow.
What is she, 32 weeks now?
Yeah, March 18th is the.
Okay.
I'm sure everybody's really wondering, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering.
Yeah, for
So what do you have now? Well, you have 3, but what?
3. So 9, 5, 1, and March.
Wow.
Yep.
Good for you.
And 3 girls, right?
3 girls, and this last one's a boy. Well, I don't know. Last is a tricky thing to say.
Latest. The latest and greatest.
The latest edition is a boy.
Yeah, tell somebody your plans.
Yeah,
Tell you
exactly.
That.
Exactly.
That's the biggest
100%.
joke. Yeah, that's the biggest joke you tell.
Take my will.
So how long have you been doing this full time now? Like this is your career?
Yeah. So when I was 18, I had this choice. I graduated. I got a scholarship to a college, film school, and then I also got a job offer from the place I was interning at, thanks to Chip Rutan, who was shooting a lot of local commercials at the time. And basically they convinced me, the guys who worked at this studio, like, just try it out. Like, we'll pay you, right? And then just defer the college thing. And if you ever want to go back to it,
You can.
yeah, they will take your money in 4 years if you would like to start this whole thing.
Yeah.
And after a couple of years, it was like I worked there for a while. I worked at a different place. It just kind of kept stepping up. My like personal business was growing. The hustle was growing and all of that. And I've never looked back. And I've never once been asked for a college degree,
Right,
from anybody who's interested in this.
Yeah, your work speaks for itself.
They only
after
look
a
at the
certain point.
portfolio. They only look at the results, and that's it. That's that.
And that's kind of funny you said that. Like even in our business, and I went to 4 colleges for like 7 years. I have quite a few associate's degrees.
Yeah.
And I tried to put all three of them together into a master's, and they didn't accept that. But no, they were like, no, that's not how that works.
Reach out to University of Phoenix or something.
Like,
There you go. They might do
Hey,
it.
they might do it. Like they'll take the money. But with my career, it's just simply I'm not selling necessarily homes. I'm selling myself and building relationships.
Yep.
And if you can do that in this as well, it's going to be the same thing. Like you're gonna succeed, and that's really important to us. Like when I got into this business, I didn't know what I was doing. First off, took me 2 years to get sober, and then it took me probably another few years just to find like myself being able to actually take care of other people, because I could finally take care of myself. And the fact that you're a family man, which is really cool. Married. How long have you guys been married?
I got married when I was 19, so like 10 years.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. A lot of young marriages. I was married when I was 21.
Yeah.
So, and Alyssa was 19.
Yeah. This is the Central Pennsylvania, podcast.
Yeah.
That's true.
That does happen around here.
Yeah,
sometimes.
we do that around
We
here.
do that around here.
I've been married a couple times.
Yeah.
We won't discuss that here.
But
But anyway,
more experienced in that.
very, very.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it a third time. Taylor's my fiance, and she's amazing.
Shout out to
She's
Taylor
yeah,
again.
shout out to Taylor. Oh, yeah, you shouted out to her last time.
We love Taylor around here.
Yeah, she's amazing. But to me, just to see, I just think it's so wonderful to see somebody like you, a father, a husband, somebody that's been doing this from 18. Like when I was 18, I was a mess of a human, a mess.
I was a mess for a while there. Too.
Yeah, I believe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, but
It's really cool to see that. And and I have a lot of friends. I'm a big traveler. I travel to hunt a lot. So I have a lot of friends in the hunting industry that film.
oh, cool.
Like, so I have a lot of friends that are on different TV shows, multiple friends that are on big production TV shows.
Yep.
And it's really cool. One of my buddies, Nate, he films a show called Mojo, and then he edits 26 episodes a year.
Crazy.
He films them all and edits them all.
Yep.
Films them all, edits them all.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, that is a lot of work. And he loves it. And he's Boiling Springs.
Yep.
I got other guys that are from Boiling Springs, Mechanicsburg, Scranton, and they're all big TV guys. And I did a little stint with ABC 27 back in 2013. I did a couple things on TV with them, which I really liked. And I like the camera too. It's really fun to me.
Yeah.
That's why we needed the podcast. We had
We had to do something.
What else were we
I
gonna
needed
do?
something. Like, so I need something. But and I just got new glasses with glare resistance, so you're welcome, people. But I just think the quality of the film that you did,
Oh, thank you.
the hustle that you're doing, and the ability to take care of your family by doing something you love, and it's very apparent you love it because of the quality of your work, is just freaking awesome.
Oh, thank you.
It's
super cool, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I love, and if you haven't seen it, it is Turbo Cola.
Yeah.
It is on YouTube. I didn't have to watch commercials because I have an account.
Oh,
which is
cool.
fine. Because he's
YouTube Premium.
Yeah.
I have YouTube Premium, so
That's probably why, yeah.
but even if you have to watch commercials, it's worth it. The
Yeah.
movie was phenomenal. The casting was phenomenal. I can say, like, honestly, the cast has everybody. It has, the girl that's super successful that's going to NYU.
Right.
It's got the mom that spends her time at the bar.
Yep.
It's got the dad that's in prison. It's got the son that just has a great moral compass, but is also, like we said earlier, trying to steal $80,000. But he's doing it because he wants to get out of town and he wants to be different.
Yep.
He wants to break that lineage of his family and go somewhere else. So it has and it's got the jock that's still living in the past.
I tell people the movie's about like where you came from and where you're going, and how to get out, you try and get like away, and you kind of have to go through it instead of going away and around it. And so it's like literally that night, it's almost like a mythological thing. It's like literally the high school jock comes in, used to beat him up. His best friend comes in, his old best friend comes in, his old girlfriend, his new girlfriend, his mom. It's almost like he has to face down all of these people.
All of them. You've seen oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Dazed and Confused. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Ben Affleck.
Yep.
That's that kid. Mm-hmm. What's his name again in the movie? The jock?
Anthony Notarelli played Eric.
Eric, yeah.
Yes.
So that was like
I
him.
knew I was wrong. It's Eric, yes.
Eric, because he's still, he's living in the past, but he spun his side around. I was like, oh my gosh, he actually is the one that brought a lot of it together at the end, which you didn't expect.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you brought a lot of that into this movie.
That was an addition to the script that, like, originally he was just the jock. He didn't have that moment.
Oh,
and he
really?
signed on for the role reading that version of the script. And then when we rewrote it so that he had, because after seeing his audition, talking to him, we were like, he's really good. It's almost a waste just to have him play this one note kind of jock character. And so we added this thing where he gets to be the football captain one more time, basically.
Yeah.
and he read that and was.
I was wondering if that's kind of why
"Thank
you decided to do that, because the
was
whole like
stoked about
captain leadership part of him.
Yeah.
gets
Well, he
to
kept
come
saying
out.
team.
Yeah.
Team. And
Yes.
I was like, I loved how you kept using the word team. I was like, this is so perfect for a guy because that's what he lived like.
Right.
And it was like the Breakfast Club. He was like,
Yeah.
what's his name? The wrestler.
Yep.
You know,
true,
like,
yeah.
it was the same idea.
Yep. The Leatherman jacket.
Letterman
The
jacket.
Letterman jacket. Yep.
But as much as I saw similarities in different movies, this movie was one of a kind.
Thank you.
It was its own. And the characters that you used and how well it was written, directed, and produced was something that, if you haven't seen this movie, make sure you take a look. Anybody, everybody.
Thank you.
And it doesn't matter if you're 15 or
Yeah.
you should be 18. For the parents out there, I don't
Yeah.
care how old you are, but or 65. It doesn't matter. This is a great movie, and I think you can pull something about yourself from any one of those characters. So
Yeah, it's on Apple TV, Amazon Prime.
Yep. Oh, it's on all those.
YouTube. Yep.
Yeah. I think it was. I got it on Apple. I think.
Yeah.
You said Apple TV. Yeah.
You can watch it with commercials on Tubi. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I have one more thing I wanted to ask you about. So,
me.
so this idea, you know the idea of like Chekhov's gun, right?
Yeah.
So this is one thing that I really thought was super interesting in the
Chekhov's
film.
gun is if you show a gun in the first act of a story, it has to go off by the end.
By the end,
or
right?
else you shouldn't have shown
correct.
Or else you
exactly.
shouldn't have shown
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
just to
Right. And so this idea is really, I think there's multiple Chekhov's guns in the film that I think are so interesting, because one big blemish that I thought the first Netflix series I ever really watched was Lost. Okay, whenever Netflix first came out, Lost was like on the front page of it.
Sure.
One
And
of
I
my
remember-
favorite shows ever.
It's an amazing show.
So I remember binge watching
For a few seasons.
For a few seasons, exactly. Yeah. So
It's incredible for like
It is
3
really-
seasons.
yes.
And then it's like,
Yeah.
because of the equity of how great that was, I will finish it.
yes,
You know.
that's exactly where I was.
Penny.
At. I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. So anyway, so the characters are great. The scene is great. The concept is awesome. All those kind of things. But one place where they lose me, and I think they lose a lot of people, is they introduce all of these items and mysteries throughout the show, and only a handful of them ever get answered. So like, there's like the numbers in Lost. That's like a mystery. There's like, who is the smoke monster guy?
Yep.
We never really learn about
polar
that.
bear?
Yeah. There's all these
there's some
different
stuff.
there's all these different things, and I'm like, oh, that's such an interesting mystery. I can't wait to figure out what that's gonna lead to. I can't wait to figure out where that's going. And you never get there in Lost.
Right.
And one thing that I told you at the premiere was that one thing I really appreciate about Breaking Bad is my favorite show. Is that every time they introduce something, or in the beginning of a lot of Breaking Bad episodes, are like this cold open where there's one part where there's like a teddy bear flying out of a plane, and you're like, why are they showing me this on Breaking Bad? What does this have to do with anything? And then you get to it later that actually has a really important relationship to the plot by the end of the episode, or by the end of the series, or by the end of the season. And I thought that in Turbo Cola, you did such a good job of introducing these little things that you would think are nonchalant things. Like, I'm not going to spoil much of it, but like the town mascot is
There's
one.
like little souvenir wrenches.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
They sell.
Yeah, I knew that had to
People
play
are
something.
throwing pens in the ceiling.
Yes. And so
They
there's
throw a wrench in the ceiling. And
right. And so they talk about, or even stuff with like Austin's mom that keeps getting brought up, and keeps having moderate plot points throughout the series. And I just love that in Turbo Cola, it didn't feel like anything was wasted. Everything had a place. Everything had an interesting reason to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, to me, made it such an interesting film, is I kept wanting to know where these things were going to fit in.
Thanks, man. I think to the writers of Lost's credit, I think they said we got 5 seasons worth.
Yeah.
And in season 4, the executives were like, well, we're doing 9 with or without you guys. So, and they like stuck around, and they're like,
And you
"I guess
can
we have
see
to-"
that. You can
kinda
see that
feel it.
in the show.
Yeah.
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 And but now when I watched that show, it was on DVR.
Yeah.
So because I'm older, and I don't like you guys for how young you are, but that is what it is. I can't change that. But like, that was a DVR Wednesday night show for me. Like, so if I wasn't home, I had to DVR it, then rewind it.
Yep.
You guys could all just stream it. Sure. We didn't have that.
Awesome.
So, just a couple more things here. Is there going to be a Turbo Cola 2? Is there any plans for any big movies coming up outside of Turbo Cola?
So there is no Turbo Cola 2.
Oh,
We threw around some plotline ideas. I mean, if somebody wants to donate millions of dollars, there will be a Turbo Cola 2. You know what I mean? Like, enough money
go,
gets
John.
involved. Like, well, you can totally buy out the artistic. No, but there is no Turbo Cola 2. We're currently like casting and prepping for another movie currently it's called The Littlest Ghost Hunter. The title might change.
Interesting.
And we've talked to a couple people like Nickelodeon, Amazon, because it's a show about a young kid who's trying to deal with some stuff, and he does it. He's like 12 years old by hunting ghosts, and he does it with the help of his neighbor who has aspirations to be like a filmmaker. It's like 14-year-old who has a camera.
Cool.
And so there's like this Goonies element. They get into a lot of trouble, which seems to be a thing I'm interested in.
Yeah.
You know,
Trouble's good.
Trouble's good.
It's fun.
They go into a lot of places they shouldn't be. They're too young, and there's more dangerous things than ghosts in there. You know, and so there's that one that's like a lower budget thing. There's one called The Custodian that's like Clue in an abandoned high school, sort of
that's
like a
pretty
monster movie type thing.
Yeah.
And that's a little more expensive. So these are the two kind of things we're pushing right now to try and figure out. With the Ghost Hunter movie, we just cast 2 really talented kids who were like, I'm really excited about.
That's awesome.
And so the question, I'm not even going to say any names, because the question is, can we get the funds before they go through puberty? And we can't use them anymore.
Yeah,
But
I get that.
I was very excited about that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
we'll
awesome.
see.
And of course, we're looking forward to all of your projects and stuff.
you.
Last question of the day.
Yep.
What would you say to someone who wants to pursue their good hustle? What's your advice for people out there who are like, you know what, Luke is so cool. He's making movies and stuff. He's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Like, how can I build up the courage and knowledge base and all those kind of things to pursue my thing? Well, what's your advice to people like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I heard somebody say there's like different types of luck that you can
Yes.
make. You know what I mean? And starting out, like looking back, I realized that the type of luck that I was doing was literally just stirring the waters, like just doing a lot of stuff. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to be the guy who's like, wake up, take a cold shower, and then just like work until
Cold plunge.
until 2 a.m. or whatever. I don't want to say that, but I do think not being afraid to whatever your hustle is. Like for me, it looked like making a short film for like $300 of my own money just to feed people, talking people into it, like doing the work to write the script, to edit the thing, like doing all these things. In the moment, it was like I put it out on YouTube or something and get like 45 views.
Sure.
And eventually get like 2,000 views. And I'm like, it didn't work. But if you look back, like I can literally I actually did this exercise that you can tie all of those to things that I needed to make this. And it wasn't just philosophically like learning. It was like I actually met that person there because I went to Philly and I shot that thing for somebody.
Right.
And I met the cinematographer for Turbo Cola. I wasn't the director on that set. I was the assistant director, you know, and I worked with Dennis, who was the guy who made Turbo Cola look so good. And because of working with him and for not very much money on a project that hasn't even been released yet because I didn't finish editing it. You know what I mean? It was like, it was a failure in the moment.
Sure.
But when I needed somebody to shoot the thing, I never even thought of him because he was so good. And he saw that I was looking for something and he reached out to me and was like, hey, is this the same Luke that we're, you know? And so it was literally just for my entire career was just doing things instead of doing nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's important because there's no change without change. Mm-hmm. And if you're not doing anything, you're never going to move forward. Mm-hmm. And to me, moving forward has always been a thing for me. And I've always had that desire to make changes. And I can tell you, previous life, there was a lot of jealousy in my world. You know, I was jealous of a lot of people that were successful. Mm-hmm. And to let go of that, let God, and finally understand, like, it's up to me what I do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get as much as I want with as hard as I work. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's been my hustle. It's just been moving forward and understanding that the harder I work, it's going to be better for me. And it's not just about being a go-getter. It's about I just read a book called The Go-Giver, and it's phenomenal. Like the more you're willing to help other people, the more it's going to come back to you. And I think the fact that what you're doing is helping your family so much and giving a life that maybe you would have never imagined or believed in, I think that's one of the reasons you're having so much luck. So we just really appreciate you being here. We appreciate the fact that I got to meet you and watch this phenomenal movie, and I can't wait to share it with my brother and sister because they're huge movie people.
Thank you.
And they're going to absolutely love it and be very grateful they got to watch it. So we just thank you from The Good Hustle. You know, we're just really glad that
Yeah.
Fun time.
No, it's awesome, man. I love talking about this stuff. I love brainstorming with you know, passionate people, dude. It's so cool.